house music as we have a full house on tap. It's been, months since we've had the glorious Shashowt on the podcast, too busy being a doctor and saving lives. We are full today. It's me, Sweetheart. I got Showt. And again, Shashowt is back in the house. We have a jam-packed episode today. If you've been listening to us, you know that Shashowt's been missing. And so he's just been writing down takes after takes after takes, and they just seem to get hotter after hotter after hotter. So I feel like right now, 2 weeks before the draft, they are in fuego. Shashowt, how are you feeling? Does it feel good to be back on the pod and shoot the shit with your boys?
Yeah, I feel so good. Last year, I was just like faking till I make it as a doctor, but now like shit's getting real. So I actually have to do this properly. So it took a lot of my time, but now, things are clearing up and happy to be back on the pod.
Dude, you feel like this is just Shashowt week, celebrating your birthday 2 days ago. This weekend is your bachelor party, bro. What is going on?
I know. And my birthday was on the eclipse. Like, what?
Oh my God.
What kind of shit is
What a
that?
gift from God.
What kind of shit is that?
That if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. Yeah, we'll absolutely take that.
A sign that I may die because all the fun things have happened.
Oh no.
If we don't record next week and don't put out an episode, you probably know why. But here we go, Shashowt. You are driving the episode today.
Sure.
Hottest takes, NFL, draft related, whatever you got, spit them out one by one. Showt and I will be the judges of whether we buy into your hot take or we think it's a bunch of fugazi. And if we think it's a bunch of fugazi, we have to tell the viewers why. And first, before you start, I just want to say that our last podcast episode we put out got the absolute most viewership, subscribers, comments we've ever seen in the history of the podcast on YouTube. So thank you to everybody for engaging and hating. I love all of the hate. I know we are not perfect with our mock drafts, but that's what makes them so fun. So keep on coming with the comments. Thank you guys so much for the support. Shashowt, without further ado, kick us off.
All right. Not in any order, but here is hot take number one. Out of all the wide receivers not named, the two wide receivers that are getting drafted early in this draft, not even including Rome, all right? I think Ricky Pearsall will end up having the best fantasy career out of all the other wide receivers.
Wow.
That is
and he said fantasy career. So these words are very important. Fantasy and career, okay? Those are very, very important. Shashowt, I am a huge Ricky Pearsall truther. So you don't even have to sell me on Ricky Pearsall. My only conversation with fantasy Ricky Pearsall is, do you think he is so talented that situation is not important to him in terms of where he lands, that he will produce?
That's exactly what it is. Okay. Even players like Marvin Harrison. You want to know some bad things about Marvin Harrison you may not know about Marvin Harrison Jr.? Well, his drop rate was a little alarming. You know, we're talking about we're placing Marvin Harrison as like this untouchable category, right? I am not doing that. Okay. He dominates games. He takes over the game. Sure. His drop rate is like 8.2. It's a little bit higher than we would like. Okay. Contested catches are great, and his possession receiving abilities are great, but only 6.4 yards after the catch. Okay. Only 5 missed tackles forced. Okay. Do you know how many missed forced tackles Neighbors had? Over 20, closer to 30. Right. So these are the things that matter in the NFL. We're not playing against little tiny nobodies here. We're playing against big dudes. And, you know, his deep ball catching rating was in the top 5 in almost every deep ball category. It's the NFL. Deep balls don't come like that in the NFL. Deep balls are hard to accomplish in the NFL, especially with a mediocre quarterback or a tiny quarterback like Kyler Murray. Like, there's a lot of things to be considered here. So when you just put Marvin Harrison Jr. up there and thinking he can do everything, he can't. He had no screen receiving part in his game at all in college. Screens just did not happen. They didn't use that at all. Okay. Yards per route run was low. Like I mentioned, he didn't play in the slot, just strictly outside. Like, we are limiting this guy, and we're calling this guy one of the greatest wide receivers of all time to come out of college. I'm not okay with that. He may end up being that person, but Neighbors can do all of that and above. He plays on the slot. He caught screen passes, fast, caught this, caught that. Sure, but we're not talking about those two here right now. We're talking about Ricky. And he also does all of those things. And doing all these things at 6'1", 189 pounds, it reminds me a lot of Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman also did all the things. He returned punts, did everything, right? Excellent route runner. He may not have like the best straight line speed, but he did get a 4.41 40-yard dash. So fast enough, right? And he has over 10 different routes in his repertoire. So we're talking a guy coming out of college, ready to run 10 different routes better than most people. From a fantasy perspective, great PPR option. He's going to get a lot of catches. He has that ability that Julian Edelman has. And it's one of the easiest decisions for me to make this my first hot take, that he's going to come into the NFL and just fit right in.
Okay. That's a hot take. That's definitely a hot take. I do want to address the Marvin Harrison drop rate. I did see that as one of his cons, but I think the drops were, he had 3 drops on one game, and that's sort of inflating his statistics. And I don't know if you can count that.
Why are you going to drop it 3 times in one game, though?
I mean, that
was it raining?
I don't remember what the
Okay.
game situation was, but I think it may be an outlier, and I don't think that you can knock Marvin Harrison completely
That's
for
fine.
that. But with that being said, I'm not bought in that he's the wide receiver 1 either. We've had conversations about that. Ricky Pearsall, to me, as fantasy relevant, like Ricky Pearsall is a guy that the Steelers are also trying to get, and like they may target in the second round. If he goes to the Steelers, I can't say that he's going to be that fantasy relevant as if he were to go to, I don't know, Miami or some of these other high flashing offense teams. So that is a tough take career. I could see that, but I'm not quite bought in because I think it is team dependent.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the hot take was for his career, right? He's going to be impactful fantasy wise. And with guys that can create separation and get open, and like you talked about, his athleticism is there, but it's not top notch, even though, again, the 40-yard dash was like 4.41. He's got a 42-inch vertical. So let's not take away from his athleticism at all. But the thing that we knocked, Justin Jefferson on when he was coming into the league is he's really good at getting open and creating separation, but he doesn't excel in one true athletic trait. And I think right now the NFL is overvaluing athletic traits over guys who can literally just get open and separate. And Shashowt, you and I talked about another guy like Roman Wilson, who we absolutely adore because of his ability to do that. And that's why I'm so high on Ricky Pearsall as well. And like you said, Shashowt, unless the quarterback is just absolute dog shit, if your ability to get open is the best thing about you, then I don't think matchup or, the team you go to is really going to matter.
All right. Hot take number 2. There's a huge debate between which quarterback is worth the pick this high up, right? So we've been debating. We already know who the number 1 quarterback is going to be, but we're all really debating what number 2, number 3, number 4 is going to be. And it has come down to Drake May versus JJ McCarthy for a lot of people at this time, not including some other players that have won the Heisman. But right now, the question here is Drake May versus JJ McCarthy. And I think I am going to end this debate personally for me right now. I'm going to say a couple good things about Drake May, but it's going to end right there because the NFL level arm talent is there. It's there. It's one of those few things that a lot of quarterbacks don't have, and that just doesn't make them go up in that echelon because they're just going to be always limited in that Geno Smith, Ryan Tannehill level, and this guy has the arm to surpass that. That's the nice thing, okay? He's a great pocket passer, also good for a quarterback because at the end of the day, you're delivering balls, right? You're not running for your life. Your job is to deliver balls. He's got great escapability, so if you do have to run for your life, he can do that too. However, his footing is one of the worst footing videos I have ever seen in my entire life. It's bad. It's actually terrible. It's if you watch a video of him, even if it's a good play, even if it's a bad play, he's hopping around. He's just hopping in one spot. Watch the same video for Russell Wilson. Watch the same video for players that have been great for decades. And you'll see poise. You'll see comfort. You'll see them just like waiting to get knocked out, even if it means getting hit, so they can deliver the ball accurately. Drake May is like on ADHD type of picture. He's just always too antsy. That's great. It works out. It creates plays, but it's not what you need for a long-term quarterback to have composure. Can we teach this? Maybe. Can we teach this? Maybe. But this isn't about the trajectory of your arm. This isn't about your hip rotation. This is something that is almost like a personality trait. He's kind of anxious in the pocket. So this is more than just, stop moving your feet, right? This is more of like he's fearful something will happen. So he has to do something about it. And that is be hoppy. So maybe it can be taught, but I'm a little hesitant. In the beginning, I was like, let's go all in. This is what I need. I'll take the risk. But now you switch the ball over to JJ McCarthy. I'm going to say some bad things about JJ McCarthy. Okay. And then I'll end with the good. So these has all the tools, players, right? He has all the tools to be the best in the NFL. It really only just takes you so far, okay? Especially when we haven't seen this in the college level, right?
Look at Burrow, look at Allen, look at Lamar, look at Mahomes. They were the centerpiece for their offense in college, in high school, forever. Everybody knows the ball needs to be in their hands, right? It's not a run first offense that somebody else. No, it's their team. This is not what JJ McCarthy's done. He has never been that way. It's always been run first. Let's see what JJ McCarthy can do to manage the game. So I'm seeing a lot of Sam Darnold type of energy from this exact player. I'm seeing a lot of the same things people looked at Sam Darnold when they wanted him on their team. And for the same exact reason, Sam Darnold did not play out. So that's my fear. That's my fear for JJ McCarthy, is that he just hasn't had the exposure to be what he needs to be. Now, that being said, great arm, great placement. He's huge under pressure. The same thing Drake May cannot do. JJ McCarthy is probably the best out of this whole class at doing that. Composed under pressure. It doesn't matter what the situation is. He's scanning, he's looking, and he's quick enough to avoid the tackles if it does come to that. So I'm looking at a very young Russell Wilson. Once again, I keep going back to there, but he is who he is for a reason. I'm seeing a lot of poise that I don't see in a lot of these other younger players, and that comes a long way. So that tells me, at best, we're looking at, I don't know, something new. At best, this is something new that we haven't seen in a while, that we haven't, it's just a whole new dimension of player that's worth taking the risk. At worst, we're looking at Jake Locker. So very, very, very wide array of opportunities, but teams that are desperate, teams that have never had a it factor type of quarterback, would you take the risk? What would you guys do?
I'll defer to Shove It first.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think that, JJ McCarthy is more poised, and Drake May, his inaccuracy issues have certainly been put on film. Like, he's just making easy throws and just missing them, right? So with that being said, and you're getting a guy that's a proven winner in JJ McCarthy. I don't know if you really need a guy that is the focal point of an offense. Like, Brock Purdy kind of changed all that for me, right? Like, he wasn't a focal point of Iowa State. They had their running back, which I can't remember right now. I think he played for Breece Hall, right, for the Jets. So yeah, so it's not. I don't know if that is good enough to say he's not going to be good, but I agree with you. I think JJ McCarthy is a more, I guess, I just like his poise a lot better, and yeah, I'm with you on that. I like that take.
So I'm torn. I'm torn a little bit because two things. I agree with you with the poise. It's very apparent that when McCarthy is in a third down situation where he's in a situation where they ask him to do it, right? Like, not hand the ball off, not check it down when it's, third and long and you have to throw the football, JJ. He's really, really good. He's really, really good. But again, I go back to like you said, Mahomes, Allen, all those guys being the focal point of their offenses. When you have a superstar, why are you limiting him? Like, they're really, if anything, you're in college to grow. You're in college to fill out who you're going to be as a professional, if that's your end game, right? So for them to really limit his ability to do that only in certain scenarios, are we going to unlock that for you? I don't know. It definitely raises some questions. Again, if you have an absolute superstar, if Jim Harbaugh truly believed when he went on camera 2 months ago and said, JJ McCarthy, when it's all said and done, is going to be the number one quarterback taken in this draft. Well, if you truly believe that about the quarterback you coached in college, why would he not be your offense, right? Why would he not be the best thing about your offense? You can still work the run game off of that. You have an amazing offensive line. And I think the second thing that I go to in terms of the comparison with JJ and Drake is Drake May played for a shithole of a college, right? North Carolina was awful. Their offensive line was terrible. Devontae Walker was probably their best receiver, and he's electric at times, but he also dropped a lot of passes. So I feel like, similar to how everybody started critiquing Caleb Williams, it's that, every play feels like he's trying to make a home run play. Well, yeah, you're playing in an offense for a team that if you don't score every time, you're probably going to lose and lose by a lot. And I feel like that sense of pressure that falls on you in college, you feel like if you're really a good football player, you can overcome that. Like you said, right? In college, you can use your physical abilities to be better than 90% of the players because they're all lackluster and they're not going to make it to the pros. But when you can't do that in the pros, you're obviously going to have to change the way you play football. I still think the qualities that Drake May has that he was good at supersede what we feel like he lacks, because again, the situation is he's going from University of North Carolina, where nobody else on his offense besides Devontae Walker is probably going to be an NFL player, to, let's say hypothetically, the Minnesota Vikings with the best receiver in football, top 5 tight end, one of the best number 2s, and 2 bookend tackles that are franchise cornerstones, right? So I just think about how situation can change, and like it can change the way you play football. Again, with Caleb Williams have to make every play a home run play because he felt like if he didn't, he was going to lose. And so that's why I'm a little hesitant with this take, but it's weird because I agree with your aspect of poise. I agree with your aspect of his footwork. And sometimes he does feel jittery, and Showt, like you said, on tape, you'll see like a 5-yard slant that's 3 steps and he just misses it. Like there's no rhyme or reason for it. He just misses it at times. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. But it also just reminds me of a lot of the abilities that, Josh Allen came in and didn't have, right? Patrick Mahomes had an insane arm, but he still had to hone in his accuracy and decision-making. He still had to learn to play in structure. So I feel like Drake May's, what he can fill his body out to be is a superstar. What I feel like JJ McCarthy could fill his body out to be is like Alex Smith, if that makes sense. So that's where I feel like you said, are you playing for the floor? Then now you know what you're going to get with Alex Smith. He's, every single year going to win 10 to 11 games and put your team in the playoffs, right? But he's never going to be the reason your team goes over the hump. Well, I feel like Drake May has the ability to be that X factor. And so that's why the gravitation towards him for me is a little bit more. That's why I feel like the price to pay for him would be a little bit more, is you're banking on the upside, because again, you're drafting a guy who's 20, 21 years old. He's still a kid. So you hope that with the right coaching, the right infrastructure, and all that, he fills into the superstar that I think he can.
Yeah, that's very much a big possibility that is exactly how this turns out. All right, next up, we're going to talk some of the below elite level quarterbacks in this draft, and I think where these players need to go in order for fantasy players to have some faith in some of these teams again. So I think New York Giants trade up late in the first round and get Bo Nix, because they are tired of Daniel Jones. It's the injury factor of Daniel Jones has been a reason they should just omit from anything Daniel Jones related for the rest of Daniel Jones's NFL career. It's just not, he barely plays football now. It's just too much of a risk, and he's still a run dependent kind of guy. I think you should just kind of change the persona on that team and go with a more durable player that rarely ever gets hurt. The thing that the Giants have needed more than anything else is a passing system. So let's try to deviate away from a run-first quarterback and bring back quarterbacks that can deliver ball to wide receivers. So I think Giants fans are pretty much on board with that plan as well. I'm not saying he's going to be a franchise changer, but I think looking at the options on the board at that time, there are a couple here and there, but I think having a Drew Brees type of persona kind of come in and change the way this offense is structured will help the Giants quite a bit. And on the other end, I think Rams, who really don't need to worry about QB that much, but I think I can see them also trading up later in the first round and going after Michael Penix and just kind of mentoring him while they still have Stafford and just kind of improving things to move on to the later stage of their existence. What do you guys think about those two ideas?
Yeah, I think the Giants have been in rumors for getting a quarterback this draft, because again, as much as the way the contract is set out for Daniel Jones, they can get out after like next year. So he's basically only under contract for one more year. So I'm with you. Looking at their draft capital, they have 6, 47, and 70. So yeah, they could probably package a second rounder and some later picks to trade back into the first and get Bo Nix. The thing with Bo Nix for me with the Giants is we look at the Giants roster and it sucks. And I feel like Bo Nix needs to go into a system or a roster where he could operate like he did Oregon, where it's like, hey, 5-yard hitch, I'm going to let you work, right? 3-yard screen, I'm going to let you work. The Jimmy Garoppolo, the San Francisco 49ers esque offense, where he's just asked to deliver the football here and he does the job. So that's why I'm a little bit hesitant on the Giants. I think obviously if they at 6, get Malik Neighbors and they get that high profile receiver, X receiver for him, that true game changer, then yes, coming back and getting Bo Nix, you at least give him a weapon. But if you're drafting Bo Nix, then you also have Daniel Jones under contract for one more year. you wasted one of your first round picks on a quarterback who, if he doesn't play this year, your team doesn't get any better, really. If he does play any better, you use a draft pick on him. So you also didn't improve the rest of your team. So that's why for the Giants, specifically for Bo Nix, it's a little bit tricky. I personally think more of like you said, Drew Brees, Sean Payton, the Denver Broncos to me feel like a very, very Bo Nix spot. That's where I feel like Bo Nix, and the Rams, I do agree with you. The Rams feel like a sneaky dark horse to draft a quarterback, but I also felt like Bo Nix to the Rams made a ton of sense. And then you threw Michael Penix out at me. But again, I think I'm in lockstep agreement with you that these are teams that are dark horses to still take a quarterback because they are looking at beyond this year. Shobit, do you have thoughts there?
Not really. I just don't know if these guys are first round quarterbacks, Bo Nix, or Michael Penix Jr. I think that second round would be something that they might target. If they're already drafting a player in the first round, they trade up, then maybe, but being that they already have a quarterback, it's just tough for me to see them giving up assets to go out and grab one. I'm not sure they're convinced in either one of these quarterbacks.
Yeah. Again, you trade back into the top, the first round or the last part of the first round so you can get that extra year of control for these quarterbacks. So even if you think they're not first round quarterbacks and your goal is to get them in the second round, you give up slight capital to get back in there just so you have one more year of control so you can really decide if they're your franchise cornerstone or not. But sling us some more hot takes. It's getting sweaty in here.
All right. This may be one of the hottest ones, but not only does CJ Stroud get better numbers than Patrick Mahomes, but he goes farther into the playoffs than Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's about the hottest one so far you've had. I say that, and as I'm saying that, I'm formulating the thought process in my head of why you would say that. And you talk about how much better the Houston Texans have gotten, how the fact that second-year quarterbacks should take the next step. And not only should they take the next step, they literally added a superstar receiver to a already great dynamic duo receiving core. Their defense is young and getting better. They just brought in Danielle Hunter. You know what? I said hot take, and to be honest with you, it doesn't feel like that hot a take right now. Rashee Rice may be going to prison. Who are the Chiefs throwing the football to? Super Bowl hangover, even though the Chiefs, don't really believe in that. But at some point, that has to happen. At some point, you have to be hungover from winning so much, right? Like, just stop it. Just stop it. So I actually don't think this is that hot of a take. I would, if I had the opportunity today to bet money that this would happen, I would take the Houston Texans. So I am in lockstep with you. Shobit?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to discount the Texans now that they have Stephon Diggs, they have Nico Collins, and they have Tank Dell as their receiving core. I mean, that team, it looks electric on offense. And I believe they also got a running back this year. That's
Mixon.
Yeah, Joe Mixon. So, I mean, on paper, that team looks electric. I think that AFC South needs to watch out for the Houston Texans.
It's really not even just the offense. The defense has gotten significantly better too. And they were already kind of playing pretty good defense, staying up in games and everything. And I think they just got significantly better. And it's not just that, but their schedule is also a little bit better. I think the Chiefs have a couple of odd looking opponents. They do get to play their own division multiple times. It's like that whole Patriots thing all over again. But the Texans have a not that hard of a schedule compared to the Chiefs either. So that's why it's a bold take, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I forgot they also brought in Hunter and Azeez Al-Shaair, and you're looking at a team that, if you look at their depth chart, maybe their second cornerback is only the real weakness, and that's something they can attack in the draft. Kind of makes sense why they traded down and let the Vikings accumulate that extra first pick or a first round pick, right? Is you look at that roster and there's not a tremendous amount of holes. And if you can just stack assets, watch out for Houston, man. Watch out for Houston. I mean, it would be kind of cool for the state of Texas, for the Dallas Cowboys fans to talk shit every year like they're going to win the Super Bowl. And then out of nowhere, Houston drafts a quarterback who ends up being better than Dak, and they're already, oh man, that would be amazing.
All right, next up, the other bold take I have is, first, I'll start with the question. Who was RB2 last year in fantasy football?
Oh, God.
Okay, so CMC was number
CMC
one.
was one, right?
Right.
So, was it Kyren Williams?
No, because of the injuries, he ended up dropping a little bit.
Was it Rashad White?
No, it was 4.
Rashad
Mostert?
No, it wasn't.
Wow.
He got a lot of touchdowns. RB2 last year was Breece Hall, after all said and done.
Wow.
Yeah. Second year off of ACL injury, right? Improved offensive line already. Aaron Rodgers is back at quarterback. I mean, it's going to be a surprise if he doesn't do better than that position from last year, this year. He was also really high on volume last year, and that's going to get even better this year. Efficiency was top notch. 5.3 yards per touch is unthinkable, right? That's pretty high up. There's a legitimate argument that we are now discussing probably the best running back in football next year. Maybe not named Christian McCaffrey, maybe still named Christian McCaffrey. So, hot take, I know, but the world is placed perfectly for this man to succeed. There is everything already ready for him. And bonus, Garrett Wilson, who has people, who has scarred people because of that draft pick last year. A lot of people got him like 9th overall, 8th overall, even 7th overall, even. Those people are not going to get him at that point just because of, PTSD. So easily scoopable late 2nd round, early 3rd round, even if people are hesitant on jumping on that. And so you can get a double package here. You can get a Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson package, and your quarterback is Aaron Rodgers. Both of these guys will flourish magnificently as long as Aaron Rodgers is still throwing the ball.
Yeah, I mean, he's young. He's really versatile. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. So he really is on the level of CMC in terms of what he can do as a running back. My only fear is just the Jets offensive line. Their tackle situation is just continuing to be a revolving door. They signed Tyron Smith, which is awesome, but I believe they're still starting Morgan Moses on the right side, and he's not great. But what's great is they pick number 10. So if they go out and get a tackle at the 10 spot, then they're shoring up their offensive line. And at that point, I mean, really, like you said, the Red Sea is parting for Breece Hall to be RB1.
Yeah, I mean, since we're talking about RB1 and we're not talking about CMC potentially being RB1, I think that there's a chance that Bijan Robinson can come up and actually be RB2 or, really, really, even better than he was last year, given that Arthur Smith is not there to not let him get touchdowns in the red zone. So, I think that Bijan Robinson can be up there in the mix, but no knock on Breece Hall. It's just, we'll see how it plays out.
For sure. I would probably still draft Bijan over Breece Hall, but can't ignore the facts that are just laid out there. It's just the opportunity's there. Let's see what he can do with it. Next up, I kind of already touched a little bit on this while I was talking about the other receivers while we were, talking about Pearsall earlier. I was going to throw out a lot of the Marvin Harrison Jr. Hype versus why there's so much hype. We kind of already touched on that a little bit, but I just wanted to add a little bit more Neighbors information because I didn't do a little bit of that earlier. But, just wanted to talk about the completeness of this player and why a team like the Cardinals should probably draft him. We talked about the 30. It was, I think it said 20 missed tackles, but it's actually 30 missed tackles forced versus what was Harrison, like 6?
Yeah, single digits.
Like even less. I think it was like 3. I think it was even like, it was 5 versus 30. Let's just look at it. Just think about it like this. We're looking at AJ Brown versus like a T Higgins, maybe even not even T Higgins-esque as far as strength goes. So a lot of that was because he didn't have to get tackled. It was just deep balls after deep balls, sideline catches after sideline catches. Nothing. I'm not knocking Marvin Harrison, but we just got to talk about what it means to have a wide receiver for fantasy football purposes. And for fantasy football, it's all about catching the ball. It's all about multiple targets. It's all about being able to throw the ball to this player whenever you want, wherever you want. So no matter how dominant a player is, unless you're Randy Moss, you're not going to put up numbers that people expect you to put up because of the limitations you have on yourself. And he's not Randy Moss. He's another Marvin Harrison. And in this day and age, defenses are faster. They're better. They're stronger. I doubt the top is going to be as open as it was in the college. So Arizona Cardinals, you really got to think about this one, all right? I mean, I don't know what else to say, but this decision is going to haunt whoever makes this decision for the rest of their life if this doesn't pan out how it should pan out for Marvin Harrison drafters. Now, is the Neighbors thing just because of Jaden Daniels and his, amazing year at LSU? I don't know. But what I see is what I like, and that is availability at any point of the game to throw the ball to him at any situation. And I hope NFL teams tend to favor that as well.
Yeah. So your take here is Neighbors over Harrison?
Yeah, I think for fantasy purposes, absolutely. Situationally, if it's an outside receiver, like if we're like Marvin Harrison going to the Steelers makes no sense, right? Because you already have an outside guy you just drafted last year. We need somebody on the inside if it's a Steelers. So it depends on the team. Now we're talking about the Cardinals. Who are they throwing the ball to right now? They just got rid of their deep ball threat. So Marvin Harrison Jr. could fit there, and they got a bunch of little guys doing a lot of little stuff on the inside. So this could be a good fit. But again, we haven't seen what he can do from the slot. We haven't seen him catch screen passes. We have seen none of that. It doesn't exist. There's no data. So you got to make the decision here, Cardinals. Like, do you still want to go with what you saw in college and hope for the best, knowing that he's going to be a good receiver, or do you want somebody right off the bat that can do anything on the football field? So that's the take here.
Yeah, where are we at with this recent off the field crap with Neighbors and DUI and blah 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 blah?
Who cares, dude? It comes back to that old, like you're playing football. You're like, again, back to fantasy football, right? This is back to fantasy football. Without all this allegation stuff, you're just drafting a player that'll put up points for you. Like, that's the goal here, right? So off the field stuff, let's keep it off the field. If you want to talk about the off the field stuff and try to get his draft value lower so people can draft him, which is, I think, exactly what's happening right now. This is what happens at this time of the year. Just stuff gets leaked. Stuff gets leaked all the time around this time. So if you want to get hung up on that, and sure, go ahead. Don't draft him because he's a bad person, whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day, we're drafting a football player that plays football. So I don't really have a say when it comes to off the field stuff. I'm not really big on making that a factor for drafting a player or not, unless they're going to get fine, or not fine, but like disciplined from suspensions. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're comparing 1A to 1B, and so like Malik Neighbors versus Marvin Harrison. How do you know which one to go for? Marvin Harrison is probably a guy that's a great route runner. It has the fundamentals down to the T at this point, and he's got that pedigree of being Marvin Harrison's the senior son, right? And then Malik Neighbors is electric, can do everything, extend the field. I mean, he just seems like your fantasy treat. Like, that's the guy that you want in fantasy that can go out and break tackles and things like that. So it's going to be tough, but I don't know if you can go wrong with drafting either one of those guys if you're Arizona Cardinals. But you want fundamentals, you get Harrison. You want explosiveness and some breaking tackle ability, you get Neighbors. I guess that's how I'd probably look at that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pick your flavor. But again, I'm always going to gravitate towards the guy that I think has more upside because, when we're stacking 1A to 1B, there has to be a differentiator, and that's it to me, right? Is you watch Marvin Harrison's tape and you watch Malik Neighbors' tape. There's a reason Malik Neighbors' tape just jumps out at you, or at least to me it did. Like, you don't see that. I don't see that very often when I'm watching somebody play football. Like, this guy is truly special in the way that he can separate, get open at will, stop on a dime. It really doesn't matter what cornerback is covering him, how they're playing him. It does not matter. Like, I don't think it matters. So when I'm comparing Neighbors and Marvin Harrison, there is no weakness in Malik Neighbors' game. Like, somebody point out a weakness that Malik Neighbors has in his football playing game, because we talked about Marvin Harrison. He's not a run after the catch guy. He never will be. That's not part of his game. But, that's just one aspect of football, right? If he's getting open for 20 yards every time and he catches the ball and he goes down, you'll gladly take 20 yards every play because he's not getting you 25. Doesn't matter. But with Malik Neighbors, every single 3-yard, 5-yard, 2-yard, 4-yard play can be a 50-yard, 60-yard, 70-yard play. And again, he doesn't lack anything else. He's not dropping the football. It's not hard for him to get open. So there is no knocks that you would be like, I have to take Marvin over him. So to me, again, as much as Harrison becomes a consensus across the world, and, clearly all three of us feel the same way about Neighbors, I don't think to me, it's clear that Malik Neighbors is a superior prospect because the things that he can do better than Marvin Harrison can't do, obviously, because he can do them better. But everything that Marvin Harrison Jr. can do, Malik Neighbors can do as well. There's not one thing to me that Marvin Harrison Jr. can do that Malik Neighbors can't. So I'm in lockstep with you. I've been this way since day one. Again, very rarely do you watch somebody's tape and you're just like, my God, like, this is insane. This is one of one. That's how I felt like watching Jamar Chase in college. To me, Malik Neighbors is like a Jamar Chase, DJ Moore hybrid. To me, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s best case upside is like AJ Green. That's like, to me, his lockstep 1-for-1 comparison is AJ Green. So again, pick your flavor. They're both great. They're both productive. AJ Green has like a history of the most 1,000-yard seasons before Mike Evans came onto the scene. But with that being said, you are banking on the guy that can be a real one-of-one kind of guy. And to me, that's Malik Neighbors.
Agreed. All right. Next, cold, hot, whatever you want to call it. Probably colder than hot, but hotter than warm. Which running back in this upcoming year that wasn't already in the top 3 this year do you guys think will be chilling in the top 3?
Fantasy-wise?
Fantasy-wise.
Top 3. I think that the Who was the backup to Josh Jacobs? Zamir White. He has a strong chance, and he obviously was not. Yeah,
Top
that's
three.
how-
So, I mean, in terms of not being top three, the first one that comes to mind is Bijan. Bijan wasn't a top 3 running back, and I think Bijan will easily be a top 3 running back.
Yeah, that's a solid point. That's a really good one. I was actually going with Josh Jacobs. So it's funny how you use the other guy instead of Josh Jacobs. But we finally see a world where the Joneses and the Dylans are not designated in their own roles anymore. I know they got Dylan back, but Dylan's not going to touch the ball. Trust me. Trust me on this one. It's going to be Josh Jacobs' show pretty much all day in Green Bay. And Green Bay has a history of providing very, very successful fantasy running backs when they don't have to split the ball. And if you total up their amount of touches and the production, it's pretty high. It's high. It's up there with some of the best running teams in the league. So I think Josh Jacobs has this open window with a quarterback that is now experienced, plenty of wide receiver options, and a playbook that is very friendly for running backs. So, yeah, I think Josh Jacobs is going to be one of those dark horses that people are going to just not draft very high because of the old age and the change of scenery. Kind of going to get lost in the 4th round, maybe early 3rd round. It's going to just dissolve in time, and somebody's going to get him, and they're going to just enjoy the hell out of the production here because the injury history isn't that severe, and he's not that old. He still has years that he just produced recently. And he doesn't look like he's really slowing down. This doesn't look like a player that kind of looked like Eckler last year, who just got kind of chubby and lost speed. Jacobs has looked good till this day. So I think this is a very, very serious dark horse. I know you mentioned Bijan, but Bijan's on a lot of people's radars going in the top 5 picks, probably. I'm not sure yet, but Jacobs is going to be a really big steal. I think this is one of those scenarios where everything is going to work out for him.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got a world where production wise, because he's getting the touches and he's the main guy, that he could be a top 5 finisher. I personally feel like his ADP is going to be 2nd round regardless. I feel like he's going to be like a 2nd round running back, which obviously again, he can outperform his ADP if he ends up being a top 5 running back. But I guess I didn't personally peg Josh Jacobs as a dark horse just because we know how freaking awful AJ Dillon is. So, in a world where Jacobs is still 26, so he's not quite 27, hasn't quite hit that cliff yet. So if they're going to work him to the ground till the wheels fall off, this is definitely the year to do it. And they paid him like they're going to do it. So not super hot because I do agree with you. I just think the situation is Aaron Jones was always great between the tackles, great at catching the passes. But then when you needed to, have a bruiser down low, it was always Dillon. But now Jacobs can do all that. So I'm with you. I don't like Jacobs the player, but I like Jacobs the situation to be able to draft the player this year.
Yeah, no, true. And then Zamir White, I like that. I just, they just got Madison, which doesn't mean anything, but I do think they're going to be drafting a running back this year. I don't know why. I like Zamir White though. He's always been like on the radar for the past 2 years, for sure. Okay, next up, just a little statement here. I think the Washington, there's very few teams that actually need a left tackle this year. There's a couple that are very glaring, like the Cowboys now need a left tackle, the Packers need a left tackle, and the Washington Commanders need a left tackle. So I think Washington, if they know what's good for them, they're going to trade up to the 11, 12, 13 range. There's going to be a lot of trades this year in the 1st round. It's just easy prediction there. But I think they're going to move up to that range and go after Olu Fashanu. And he's not looked at as like the best left tackle in the game, but a lot of people don't even have him in the top 3. They have they got Fatanu over him. They got Fuaga. They got Mims. So I think for me, it's pretty clear cut here. If I want a guy on my team, I'm going after Olu. And, there's not, like I said, there's not many teams that need a left tackle, and there's only a couple that desperately need one. And the Washington Commanders are one that desperately need one. I don't see the Cowboys trading up for this situation. Packers aren't going to do it. This just has to be Washington Commanders trade up to get him scenario.
So you think Washington right now drafting 2, you think they're going to stand pat, draft a quarterback, and then they're also going to trade back up to take a tackle?
Yes.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, so they have the ammo. They have pick 36 and pick 40 this year still. So they could unload those. They could unload a next year's first if they really wanted to. I do think, like you said, after like the first 5 or 6 tackles, there is a pretty steep drop off. So
yes.
Washington, I don't think is going to go into next year with Cornelius Lucas and freaking Andrew Wiley as their tackles. So they probably just need a tackle to play one of those, and then they can figure out the rest. So yeah, I think Olu is one of the best in the class for sure. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely like that. I just, it would be awesome if we continue to see players fill like needs by trading up, right? I feel like people hold draft assets to so much value where like, it's like, I don't want to trade this. I don't want to give it up. But you have to figure out, how am I improving my team now, independent from, what did I give up, right? I agree. You're going to look at the draft charts and be like, oh, I lost this trade. Similar to how the Vikings lost the trade with the Texans. Do we sit here and give a shit that they lost on the draft charts when we know they have 2 first-round picks and they're primed to go up and get a quarterback potentially? No. So I love this for them because they do absolutely need tackle. What would be even crazier that I think is less of a hot take is if they trade down. If they trade down for 2, they let one of these quarterback hungry teams come up and draft a quarterback, and then they get the tackle, and then they also get Bo Nix or Michael Penix. Yeah. So they get that tier 2 guy, and it's Cliff Kingsbury. So, who knows? Maybe Bo Nix can be the guy because he can move around a little bit and shit. So, I think tackle is an absolute need for them. Otherwise, whatever quarterback Drake May, Jaden Daniels goes there, his career's destined to fail.
Yeah. I hope you're wrong. I hope they don't take a tackle because one of the teams that are in business to get a left tackle are the Steelers, and we're targeting Amarius Mims, and that's who's been on the radar. But they may also even get a center as well. So, but yeah, trade up and get your tackle. You need that trench work
for sure. All right, next up, I got Isaac Guerrero, running back from Louisville. You guys know much about this guy?
I only know about him because of the Purple Daily draft party. There's a guy called Tyler Fornes or Thor Nystrom that does a lot of draft evaluations. And he always has this guy mocked to the Vikings in like the 5th, 6th round. So tell me about him. What do we need to know about him?
So passes the eye test. All right. Passes the eye test. He's a really good team player. He was part of a 2-headed monster at Louisville for some time. Ran the ball quite a bit, 105 carries for 639 yards. So it's not glaring from that perspective. Just the lack of touches is probably the reason for that. But he did have 8 touchdowns in those touches. And then he caught the ball pretty handsomely, 17 receptions for 192 yards. But this isn't about those statistics, all right? He's 6 foot, 221 pounds, so bigger back. And he has the profile to pass protect competently, as good as any other running back in the NFL. He's a really, really, really good pass protector. So in the age of teams drafting, franchise-altering quarterbacks, you're going to want a running back to supplement that, to protect your guy when it's all said and done. One of the few players that has quite a bit of highlight reels of just protecting his quarterback. So that kind of caught my eye first and foremost. And then you look deeper into what's going on here. He's fast. He's very fast, okay? And he's got excellent straight line speed. So I'm seeing a lot of Keaton Mitchell type of energy from this guy, but bigger, obviously, 6 foot, 221 pounds. So he has the size enough to block. He has the speed enough to proceed forward. He can catch the ball and he can run the ball handsomely. And all of this was done in a handcuff type of picture. Okay. So the main issue with him is that he doesn't run as like a tough player of his size and relies too much on speed. What does that even mean? Like, he's just smarter about the way he runs because he's trying to make it to the NFL, right? Like, the thing about being a running back is it's not like a wide receiver where you showcase everything in college, right? You have to be smart about some of these plays where you lower your head and you risk your neck injury and shoulder injury. Running backs tend to not do that, okay? They tend to be a little bit smarter when it comes to protecting their lifespan because it's just important. Their end game here is NFL. So I think that's a knock on him that isn't really a good knock. And then he's just going to be a very ideal fit for a situation where he's handcuffing a running back, and then halfway through week 9, people are not going to know who this player is, and he's just going to pop out of nowhere. He's going to start in someone's fantasy team, and he's going to just take your team to the promised land. So that is what I envision from this player. I'm not saying, all eyes on him. Let's make sure you draft him. That's not the point here. The point here is if there is an injury for your running back, which there will be, okay, make sure you know where this player gets drafted. And if it's in a situation where it's a solo running back situation and chances of the first running back missing a couple games, if they're pretty high, you got to draft them. You just have to. You have to draft them. You got to put them in your pocket because of all the things I just said. These qualities are rare. Not many running backs have all of these things. He has them all. So keep an eye out for Mr. Isaac. If he's available in fantasy football around week 6, 7, get it ready because this could be a league-winning type of player if he's played in the right situation.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of he's got really, really good profiles. So as you were talking, I was pulling him up. So for context, right? Keaton Mitchell, we know as a blazer, just an absolute blazer. He finds the hole, he's gone. Keaton Mitchell, for context, 5'8", 179 pounds. The dude ran a 4.3740, right? 5'8", 179, ran a 4.3740. Isaac Guerrero is 6 foot, 221 pounds. That's 40 pounds heavier than Keaton Mitchell. This mofo ran a 4.3340. Not just that, guys. He has a 41.5-inch vertical. He has a 10.9 broad jump. His 10-yard split was 1.55. I mean, if I pulled up his RAS score, he'd probably be like a 9.9 out of 10 or something. Those are unheard of numbers for that size. 6 foot 220, and he's running a 4.33, and he's got almost a 42-inch vertical. I mean, that's about a freak as athlete as you can probably find. Now, what I read just now in my really short time looking him up while you were talking is his biggest knocks is his play speed does not equate to how fast he ran that 40. So he plays apparently a little bit slower than what that straight line speed dictates, which again, we know that the 40 is not the end all be all. We know that there are guys that run like 4.5s that somehow look faster. Guys that run 4.3s look slow in the NFL. So could he be a product of that simply because his stature is massive, like a 6 foot 220 guy trying to run straight line? Probably not going to look the fastest, right? So I think as a late round flyer, if he can pass protect, that's one of the few things that most running backs coming out of college don't have, right? And most guys, if you can't develop that, that's how you pigeonhole yourself into being like I'm a third down backer, I'm just a pass catcher, or I'm just a first and second down guy, whatever that may be. If he can already do that, and you profile that with his athleticism, and somehow you're able to unlock this speed and the fact that he can jump through the building as a running back, I mean, the athleticism kind of speaks for itself to take a flyer on this guy. So I'm bought in. I mean, you sold me pretty easily.
For sure, man. And just think about it like this. It's a player that can block, which means he's guaranteed to see the field. Like coaches love that shit, right? 3rd and 12. Who are we going to put out there? Oh, let's put our best running back that can block. It's going to be him. And he can catch the ball. It's a screen pass for 37 yards. And we have a highlight reel on TV. Everyone's like, you know who Isaac Guerrero is? Yeah, we kind of do. Just go back to that episode. We talked a lot about him, right? So it's like, it's a blueprint for that literal exact same thing to happen. It's bound to.
Hell yeah. We've been doing a lot of draft conversations, and you've been just dropping some fantasy football gems right now before even ADPs are out. This is fucking awesome. I'm just writing this all down.
Let's go.
Yeah, dude. All these guys are going to be Showit's like top picks. Guerrero in the first. Ricky Pearsall in the second. Like Shashowt said, though. Shashowt said that.
Oops. Josh Jacobs, first pick of the draft.
Well, no, I think those are great takes to sling. I mean, that's all we have, guys. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, hit the like. It helps spread the word. Somehow the word is spreading because we had more people watch last time. So keep on doing that, please. Thank you so much. If you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening, you can listen to us on any place you get your podcast platform. Socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at The Only Playbook. I am Sweetcard. That is Showbit. That is Shashowt. We are The Only Playbook. Hopefully we will be back next week to record an episode. Stay tuned on what happens this weekend at Shashowt's Bachelor Party. If we do not answer, that is why. Thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic week.